Oh, well, Adrian, I found some stories, and this is one of them, one of my little short stories that I like to write. This one is called A Case of Sunstroke, and I see I wrote it in 2018. So, a case of sunstroke, maybe. For the first time in the 25 years of their marriage, Donna received a compliment from her mother-in-law, Ruth. "For a shiksa, you're a great woman, Donna, and you've certainly made my son a very proud and happy man." Donna beamed, as indeed did her husband, Joseph. It was their silver wedding anniversary, and Donna had arranged, and paid for, a 5-day trip on a yacht in the Mediterranean to celebrate. She'd invited another 2 couples, and his mother came too. Donna worked as a buyer in a large department store in London's Oxford Street, and the lingerie department was her special baby. She'd left school at 16 and worked her way up towards the top. Joseph, on the other hand, came from a more middle-class background. Public school and university were followed by simply joining the family business of publishing in Camden Town. The couple lived in a large mansion flat owned by his family company, and once when Joseph had suggested that a move to the suburbs to a larger house with garden could be interesting, Donna had promptly refused. "I'm much too busy with my job to have any time for gardening," she had replied. "In the summer, as you know, I often walk home after work through Regent's Park. Now that's what I call a garden, and no need for you nor I to mow the lawns." So Joseph let the idea drop. However, he and his parents often speculated on how Donna always seemed to have loads of spare cash, which she spent generously on herself and others. She was always well dressed in the latest fashion, and the flat was filled with lovely antique furniture and good Persian rugs. Surely the mundane job of a buyer wasn't that lucrative. Donna explained, "Well, you know, I've pretty well worked the lingerie department up myself. Since I've been there, the turnover's quadrupled, and it attracts customers who shop in other departments too. I get lots of bonuses as a result." Another thing she did, as they knew, was to hold a hen party every month, where she sold the clothes she bought at her staff discount rate of 20%, and from time to time the remainders of end-of-season stock at huge discounts. Her party events were always well attended, and Donna would often wave a wad of £50 notes under Joseph's nose after her guests had departed. As the days ticked by on the yacht, Donna was seen to become pensive, and she seemed to be worrying. "Don't stay out in the sun too long, will you?" Ruth shouted from her sheltered position inside the boat. "Remember, too much sun can be dangerous." But Donna had reason to be worried. The week before the holiday, her director had called her in to discuss the auditing arrangements for the end of the season. Apparently, it was to be more rigorous than usual. The management had decided to call in an outside firm which had the reputation of being very thorough and bullish. Donna's task was to make sure that the auditors had all the necessary documents, and the director's parting shot had been, "By the way, they'll probably want to go back a few years too." She resolved to sort out the paperwork as soon as she returned to the office, and to present it in the order most favourable to herself. Donna had usually steered the company's own auditors in her chosen direction, and of course she made sure to give them a few samples of stock from the lingerie department as presents for their wives and girlfriends. New and unknown accountant, she moved, and almost forgot to watch the spectacular sunset over Valletta Harbour. After the holiday, Donna hurried back to her office early on the Monday morning to prepare, but it seemed she'd been pipped at the post by the new team. Two strange young men and a woman had set up office in the staff room on her floor and had boxes of accounts open and calculators at the ready. In fact, the whole room reminded her of a television crime scene. All three declined her offers of help, and she winced as she saw how they were wading through her precious invoices and cross-referencing things. At least she was the only person in possession of the keys to the safe and the strongbox. She'd deal with that later. She developed a migraine and decided to leave work early, but first she had to go to see her girls on the sales floor below. And she mustn't forget to get a few items for her hen party at the end of the week. "Oh, Donna, you look great. How did you get a tan to be so even?" Another said, "Love your new mauve handbag." "Look, Donna, we've just had a new shipment of silk camisoles in from India." She was amongst her young admirers and fingered through the silky garments with a familiar pride. She slipped half a dozen into her briefcase and signed a docket on the counter. She was just hailing a taxi outside when she felt a hand on her arm. "What do you want, Fred?" she asked the store detective. "Want to share my taxi?" "Excuse me, Miss Donna," he said. "The director just wants to chat with you before you leave. Had a good holiday?" The meeting with the director was short and to the point. She emptied the briefcase and watched as the half a dozen silk camisole tops were compared with the docket mentioning 4 only. "Oh, slip of the hand," she said. But she stayed silent when he pointed out some other documents the auditors had already pulled out. A stock book with a page razored out, a run of delivery notes with numbers missing. The interview was concluded with the director saying that he had arranged for her to meet the police in a private room in the morning to save her the embarrassment of having to go to the police station. As she was leaving, he said his fellow directors would insist on prosecution procedures, but that he would personally put in a good word for her. He knew that she had worked hard for the company. Donna cut him short by mumbling, "Must be some mistake, nothing to do with me," and ended by saying that she would walk back home through the park and bring her solicitor in with her tomorrow. "Goodbye, Alfred." As he went back to his desk, he said to himself, "I've done the best I can. Rotten business." And he regretted the fact that he'd be losing such a departmental star. But he had no choice. Stealing was, after all, stealing. And in such matters, the company was ruthless. 3 hours later, Joseph phoned in to say that he was worried that his wife had not come home. And then, later, sometime during the night, the police were informed of a missing person. Later the following morning, the well-dressed body of a woman was pulled out of the boating lake in Regent's Park. The director persuaded the rest of the board not to prosecute the family, saying that this would be bad publicity for the store, as well as having a negative effect on the staff. They would take the new auditors off the job and get their own people to arrange the figures. Donna had a big funeral with her staff and family mourning her loss. Ruth felt that Donna must have had the after effects of a sunstroke to have wandered accidentally into the lake. And in the absence of any other reasonable hypotheses, this explanation was generally accepted. What other possible reason could there have been? So that's the end of that story.
What's the title again?
The title was Maybe a Case of Sunstroke. Yes.
Very good story.
Okay, Adrian, you've told me I've got a few minutes to fill in the time, so I've found a tiny one here, which is called A Matter of Timing. Sometimes in my group we had to do very, very small stories, so this is mini thing, and the title we were given was A Matter of Timing. I reached across the desk for my diary. I'd had a nagging feeling since yesterday that I should be doing something. But what? Maybe my mobile phone needed topping up. It had certainly been strangely silent for the past few days. Flicking through the next few weeks, I spotted it. Yes, it was Dorothea's birthday on the 12th. In 5 days. Just enough time to organise some chocolates or a present. Dorothea was my younger sister and had lived in a home for the handicapped since she was born. She would soon be 18, her majority, but this would make no difference to her life. Her mental age would always be around 6, and in fact, being so handicapped, most 6-year-olds were much smarter than her. For some reason, the switchboard operator at the Ambleside house was her usual chatty self. But not this time. "Please hold while I find matron," was all she said. It had been well over a year since I had been up to Yorkshire to see my sister. I kept putting it off, excusing myself by saying, "Well, I usually do phone her every Sunday, and she's in good hands." But my conscience nagged me. I'd promised my late mother that I'd go up every month. Soon Dorothea would forget that I looked like. The matron came to the phone. "I'm so pleased you phoned, Miss Watkins. We've been trying to get hold of you for a week. I'm very sorry to tell you that Dorothea passed away yesterday. She'd been asking for you, but we told her that you'd soon be coming back from abroad, and that of course you wouldn't forget her birthday." My hands started shaking and my heart beat faster. "Sorry, Mother. Sorry, Dorothea."
What was the inspiration for that story?
That wasn't very inspirational. My last one, I did have a little inspiration because I knew a department store director. But this one, I just thought of how one is always putting things off, and sometimes it's just too late. So, but it wasn't a specific incident in that case.
In the case of the department store director, did you know of a particular case of theft?
I did indeed. I did. It happened in Hamburg. It didn't happen in Oxford Street. I had an antiques client who was a director of the store in Hamburg, and one of his employees that he sacked for stealing committed suicide.
Okay.
But she did it in the lavatory of the department store. So it was, he never forgot it. He regretted it bitterly. And asked himself the question, could he have done other things? Was there another solution, or etc.? But so that was behind that story,
Okay. Right, thank you.
Okay, pleasure.